You're listening to the Faeries and Folklore podcast by Ronel. I'm dark fantasy author Ronel Janse van Vuuren. With nearly a decade of digging around in dusty folklore books, researching creatures of imagination that ignited my curiosity, I'm here to share the folklore in a nutshell and how I reimagined it for my writing in An Origin of the Fae. This is the Faeries and Folklore podcast. Hi, I'm your host, Ronel Janse van Vuuren. You can just call me Ronel. In today's episode, we're continuing our exploration of the Fae realm. This episode is brought to you by my book, Once, Tales, Myths and Legends of Faerie, available in ebook, paperback and audiobook. Go to ronelthemythmaker.com/my-books for more. We are continuing our exploration of the Fae realm. Today's subject, Thin Places and the Other Side. Folklore in a Nutshell by Ronel. Thin places are specific sites with a mystical quality, places where the veil between the realms are thin. There are people who claim to experience enchantment, power, wisdom, and alternate realities when dealing with a thin place. Ireland is dotted with thin places, from familiar ones like Newgrange, the Heel of Tara, Dromberg, Stone Circle, Carrowmore, and Glendalough, to less familiar yet must-see sites like the Heel of Unshnick, where all the ley lines of Ireland meet, Caldach Cemetery on Boa Island, Cool Park, which was the home of Lady Gregory, where many others who contributed to Irish literature, like William Butler Yeats and Lady Gregory herself, came to be amazed at the acres of woodland and gardens. Glencombe Kill, consecrated by St. Combekill after driving demons from the glen into the ocean, and the stone circles along the Beera Way in County Cork. The Celts divided the year into two parts, the light, summer, and the dark, winter. Samhain is the division between these halves, and also the time when the veil between the worlds is thinnest. Humans and Fae freely mingle in this time, though most humans wear costumes to fool the Fae about their identities, as not to be carried off by them. Because Samhain is nowhere time, between the old year and the new, people generally avoid graveyards and crossroads, as not to accidentally cross into the underworld. Beltane also divides these times, yet it doesn't have as much of an effect on the veil as Samhain. The only law I could find specifically tying Beltane to a thinning in the veil is Linswim Lake, which holds an invisible island that can only be reached by a door set in a rock that opens every Beltane. In between times and places give the supernatural, fairies, demons, etc., the greatest power to influence the lives of mortals. In between times, thin times, include twilight, dawn, Samhain, Beltane, and midnight. In between places, thin places, include seashores, mountaintops, bogs, cairns, graveyards, stone circles, cave entrances, crossroads, and forests. And now for my interpretation of the Fae. Origin of the Fae, thin places. At crossroads, graveyards, and other places of change and choice, the veil between realms are extremely thin. Realms in this context, land of the dead and land of the living. The living can easily cross over as long as their bodies stay intact. They can return to their lives. The dead want to cross over to the land of the living and will be hunted down by Grimms and Barghess to return to the other side. Thin places are to be avoided on Samhain. Origin of the Fae, other side. Reference to the realm on the other side of the veil between the land of the living and the land of the dead. Origin of the Fae, otherworld. Realm of death Fae and the dead. Encompasses Turfpothin, the land beneath the waves, home of mirrors, sirens, etc. The underworld and other grey areas in between, Valhalla, Hades, castle of the keeper of the veil, etc. Origin of the Fae, underworld, where souls of mortals and Fae go to be judged and find their final rest. Rulers, Dachta and Hell, respectively. There are many layers to the underworld and many denizens of Faerie who happily live in this in-between place in Otherworld. As a little bonus, let's look at the translation of these terms into Afrikaans. Thin places, dun plekke. Other side, underkant. Otherworld, underwêreld. Underworld, onderwêreld. I hope that you've enjoyed this episode of the Faeries and Folklore podcast and that you've learned something new about fairy. Remember that you can get a transcript of this episode in the description. If you're new to the podcast, why not go and grab your free copy of Unseen, the second book in the fairy tale series, on my website, ronelthemythmaker.com. Loads of folklore, magic, and danger await. Take care.